It's a lot like marriage. It's all about compatibility. Now, most companies don't like joint ventures because you're sharing control. Both of them have to think about win-win.
The great Indian dream can come true for an MNC if the right partner is found and a partnership nurtured. One that prevents the foreign partner from being mindlessly global and the Indian partner from being helplessly local. This week on the show, we look at alliances that have delivered profits without heartache, and we'll see how easily things can sometimes fall apart.
It has taken us a long time, and we were frustrated for a while. But the truth of the matter is that the size of the market has not changed.
We have many partners in India. That's what I love about India, is that there are so many people with who you can work. There are so many people from whom you can learn.
You have to make sure that your ego is not so big. I mean, because you've already decided that you're not going to do things standalone. You're going to do things with a partner, and therefore you have to build consensus.
Squeezing the best out of a partnership requires clarity of purpose and an honest assessment of who brings what to the table. A good partner can help an MNC navigate the intricacies of a difficult market like India, and if you are going it alone, then the India country manager assumes significance. Often made the fall guy on Conquering the Chaos today, we also look at the challenges of being a country manager in India.
Selling a sedan to a customer in Kerala is completely different from, selling another sedan or a SUV to a Punjabi customer.
In times of Dharma Sankat, you don't waver. You are steadfast, you are clear in your mind. I may not belong to this business, but I know where to take this business to.
Even as AirAsia's Tony Fernandes and Ratan Tata decide to take to the Indian skies together, what stands out is the foreign partners' need to have an Indian collaborator who can help them meet government norms and, more importantly, help them chart a course through bureaucratic chaos. But after the initial purpose of the joint venture is met, often relationships start to fray.
Now, most companies don't like joint ventures because you're sharing control. There are more failures than successes all over the world. But when they have worked, they've worked really spectacularly well. The number one thing is actually doing due diligence on whether the two companies are compatible. So you need to look at, hey, culturally and when it comes to ethics, business ethics, are we likely to coexist happily, or are we going to fall out?
And sometimes it's a case of partners turning competitors.
It was decided to go your own ways, where both companies, both partners can follow their own visions.
In 2011, the Hero Group and Honda parted ways after 26 years of what some would call a perfect marriage, with the Japanese partner wanting to go at the Indian market on its own terms.
When you run into problems, you need, the thing that rescues it is good relationships between the two CEOs. If the two CEOs like each other, trust each other, then the teams below them will find a solution.
If there's one thing Super CEO Carlos Ghosn knows how to do, it's managing a joint venture. Globally, the Renault-Nissan story is the stuff of business school case studies. Dispatched to Tokyo in 1999 with orders from France's Renault to rescue its floundering Japanese business partner Nissan Motors, Ghosn moved boldly, returning Japan's second largest auto manufacturer to profitability within a year. Yet in India, Renault hasn't had quite the good run with joint ventures. The first and only car from their joint venture with the Mahindras, the Logan, hit speed breakers from the get-go. Disagreements on design, the level of localization in the manufacturing line, and then a fallout on pricing forced a hike in excise duties slowed things down, and eventually the partnership pushed down on the brakes in 2009, only 2 years after they decided to take a bribe together. Renault licensed the Logan to Mahindra and moved on, but not before picking up some important lessons on doing business in India.
We are here to respond to demand of consumers, first to understand the demand of the consumer, and I can tell you that in India there are so many new consumers coming to the market that you must make sure that you understand what they want.
We did learn, a little bit, a humble way, what are people after, knowing that, it's an evolving concept. And we also touched the supplier's point in terms of, what are the strengths of Indian industry, and not only because it's high cost efficient and we can export out of India what we are doing, but how we can very quickly localize and deliver a local product which is matching our quality and DNA standards.
And the Renault-Nissan alliance is still grappling with understanding the basics. Renault has finally tasted success with its value-for-money compact SUV, the Duster, giving former partner Mahindra a run for its money. Nissan is hoping that its even more value-for-money brand, the recently launched Datsun, priced under 4 lakh rupees, will turn its fortunes around in the small car market. Moreover, Renault-Nissan claims they haven't given up on the dream of an ultra-low-cost car which will be priced higher than the Nano but lower than the Datsun, a dream that estranged partner Bajaj Auto gave up on a few years back. Despite a shaky start and some would say a muddled middle, the group continues to bet on India. There is a commitment now from the headquarters to invest 4,500 crore rupees before early 2015 on a manufacturing plant and on rebranding and marketing initiatives.
India by 2020, all the gurus are saying that, will be in the top 3. India by itself deserves, the fact that a major brand, which is competing and visible in many markets, should give attention to India. India is also important because if you succeed in India, I'm not saying you can succeed everywhere, but it's a good learning in terms of, because of the complexity and the diversity of the markets.
In fact, Renault and its global JV partner Nissan plan to jointly manufacture automobile engines in India for Nissan's soon-to-be-launched Datsun low-cost car and then a smaller, cheaper vehicle that Renault plans to sell in emerging markets, starting with India. Carlos Ghosn tells us that new cars from both the Renault and Nissan stable will have nearly 100% of their parts supplied by Indian companies when they are introduced in the market next financial year. By doing this, Europe's third largest car company is attempting to skirt the midway trap. It's finally improvising, thinking local and investing in India. The Volvo-Eicher joint venture has invested over 1,300 crore rupees in India since it was formed in 2008. Just when the first wave of the financial crisis swept the world. Till 2015, the company plans to infuse another 1,200 crore rupees in setting up an engine manufacturing unit and a bus bodybuilding facility. Funds and expertise were exactly what homegrown Eicher Motors was looking for after spending 25 crore rupees in almost a decade to develop a heavy truck good enough to compete with market leaders Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland. We caught up with the CEO of Eicher Motors and the managing director of the Volvo Eicher JV, Siddharth Lal, and asked him what he thinks has made this joint venture a success.
Where they come from, everything gets extremely automated. So robotics, high automation, all that level, and that's the way they think. So, but we were able to ensure that we get exactly the same quality, if not better, than a European plant, but with a much lower capital structure, because our capital cost to labor cost is very different in India. So that's on the one hand where we've been, let's say, we've been able to pull Volvo away from their Swedish way. But on the other hand, the Indian instinct, and which Eicher was also guilty of to some extent, is to be quick about everything. So we see an opportunity in the market and we want to, even if our product is not 100% fully ready, we want to just, shove that product into place. But with Volvo around, it was very clear that if we miss the short-term opportunity, that's fine. But in the long term, we're going to win because the product which we put in is going to actually then create credibility of its own.
A measure of the success of the JV is that today Volvo, the world's second largest maker of heavy vehicles, is looking to induct Eicher as the 5th brand in its global portfolio. This means Eicher branded vehicles will be sold across markets like South Africa, West Asia and Southeast Asia to start with.
Olaf Persson, who's the CEO of Volvo, talks about the fact that they think differently today about brands as a result of the experience in China and India. So in the past, the temptation was to put Volvo on everything. But nowadays they use Volvo at the premium end, Eicher or Nissan or SDLG in the medium end. So they are much more open-minded about using these brands globally.
And this, Siddharth believes, is easier to achieve in a foreign collaboration when leaders on both sides of the table have the ability to serve themselves a good helping of humble pie at least once in a while.
In a JV, the entire idea is that of cooperation, is that of making sure that we work closely together, is building consensus, and sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it takes long, but we have to make sure that we keep at it, because at the end that's what makes the JV strong, because it's not one person or the other person, but it's jointly gaining knowledge as to why we are trying to accomplish certain things.
Rationality over personality and a lot of head, but some heart too, to make things work. On that note, we'll take a quick break, but on the other side, we'll take a look at the success stories of two joint ventures in the fast food space, McDonald's and Domino's. We also find out why global coffee chain Starbucks decided to go down the joint venture route in India with Tata Coffee. If there are two words to describe this fast food major's India expansion, they're slow and steady. The first golden arch graced Mumbai's linking road in 1996, and since, through its two joint ventures in India, the American quick service restaurant has established 250 outlets across the nation.
A lot of times people put up the single largest store when they just enter the country. It's a rare phenomena that you go and do at your largest store somewhere after 18 years of being here. So what does it tell you? It tells you that as the customer has accepted us, and as the customer is getting closer and closer and closer to us, and coming to us so much often, in given areas, we can create these flagships wherever in the mini market the demographic allows us large footfalls that happen.
Vikram Bakshi's Connaught Plaza restaurant sets up and operates McDonald's outlets in North and East India, and he believes that if there is one thing that the Indian JV has taught the headquarters, it is the ability of entrepreneurs here to deliver profits.
We have one of the lowest prices in terms of the offerings that we have for our customers. We've been able to make a profitable business. I'm sure these are things that are being looked at very, very carefully at different parts within the McDonald's system, different countries, to see how much more can you squeeze out of their existing businesses that they have there for donkey's years.
And McDonald's India local partners are quintessential Indian entrepreneurs who leverage McDonald's experience in building a brand, developing and managing a supply chain, and running restaurant operations. What they brought to the JV was local know-how on working the system, a pulse of the marketplace, and a big appetite for local innovation.
There's nothing in common between an Indian menu and a US or UK menu other than shakes, fries, and Coke. Everything else is different. But why were they able to do this? Okay, and it's because McDonald's sees itself not around the products that they make, okay, but they see themselves as a brand, the Yellow Arches. They see themselves as knowing how to handle supply chains and restaurant operations. Around that, they allow their franchisees to innovate as much as they want.
The first phase was what we call glocalization. In glocalization, really it was about marrying global knowledge with local knowledge of that we brought to the table in terms of the product, in terms of the categories and so on. The first big thing that we achieved in that time was actually create the supply chain with backward linkages to the farm. The other big thing was, making a call that we will not do beef and pork in India, separate kitchens for veg, non-veg. The second phase is what we call the build phase. That's really when we build the foundation of our business. In that phase, the first thing we addressed was the customer value proposition, which included products like the aloo tikki, the pizza puff, the chicken McGrill. The idea being Indian taste at affordable prices.
The Between 2003 to 2010 came the growth phase of really building the foundation of eating out. In numbers, it meant taking the eating out number from 3 times a month to at least 7 to 8 times. The Happy Price menu, the 25 rupee burger, was all about pulling in customers. And now the fast food chain is getting into acceleration mode with a target to double the number of restaurants it presently has by 2014. The Domino's Pizza outlet in Sector 18 Noida is among the top 10 stores in the world by the number of pizzas sold in a year by the Michigan headquartered pizza chain. In fact, all of Domino's top 10 stores in the world by number of pizzas sold are actually in India. And managing the business here is Ajay Kaul, CEO of JubilantFoodWorks, the master franchise for Domino's Pizza in the Indian subcontinent. Kaul took over 8 years ago, and for him, the challenge really was finding the right balance between localizing but not losing the aspirational quality of the international brand.
So how much local is the need to go in a market like India? Once Domino's entered India, did they realize that in the beginning we were obviously operating in a bit of a niche. We were operating at the upper end. They were costlier pizzas. They were more kind of gourmet pizzas and so on. But we very much realized that they had to be Indianized. Very soon the consumer also was changing. There was so much of westernization and internationalization happening. Indians traveling abroad who were getting exposed to the pepperoni pizza and all those things in the Western world. When they started coming back, they started having a strong influence that, listen, Pepi Paneer pizza is great, but I also want to have the original pepperoni the way it is served in the US. I think one of the key points of our success in India has been that we seem to have got this mix right.
But how does one localize donuts? How does one deal with local competition that may have captured that niche already? But for starters, Jubilant is taking things slow. They've opened just 10 Dunkin' Donut stores in nearly a year, with plans of growing to about 100 outlets in 5 years. And just like it did in the early years with Domino's, Jubilant is looking to draw in first-time consumers with more.
Dunkin' Donuts for the first time allowed us to use the name Dunkin' Donuts and More. And what is this more? More is basically all day part food solutions. It's only the beginning, but you can do wonders under it. Donut, clearly a new category, unpenetrated. We are the global leaders, so that would do well. Coffee, we are clearly, if you look at the US, our brand recall and loyalty is better than any other brand in the US. And that's why America runs on Dunkin' is a campaign which we have been running for 5 years now, and nobody has been able to even challenge us. Such is the loyalty for the brand. So coffee, again, no problem. This and more, the food part is where we will have to build credibility. Lot of insights on food came from the Domino's side as to how, as I was saying a little while back, westernized carriers, but at the core the taste should be Indian. Call it Polo Mexicana sandwich or meatball marinara sandwich, but उसको जब खोल के आप टेस्ट करोगे, उसमें फ्यूजन भी अगर हो, एक कोर लेवल पे वो इंडियन आपको टेस्ट देगा. So that is the story. On the pure food side, how we drew inspiration from our learnings from Domino's.
And this is the sort of consumer and market insight that a local partner can bring to the table. That's not to say that some things won't go wrong, but perhaps the margin for error can be better controlled. And that's the reason why Seattle headquartered coffee chain with 19,972 stores globally, Starbucks, took 5 years to prepare its India entry strategy with at least one aborted joint venture with Kishore Biani's Future Group. Analysts say the $19 billion MNC learned some tough lessons in neighboring China, where it took a decade and a half to build a cafe culture from scratch and get things right. So in India, Starbucks decided to partner with the Tata Group to set up shop, even though the FDI policy did not mandate local alliances. And what apparently swung the deal in favor of the Tatas was a culture fit between the two corporations.
When Starbucks looks at a market, it looks at it for the next, so many years. It's a long-term investment. And partnering with somebody like the Tata Group, So that's why these business decisions are strategic in nature, and they do take the time to, enter a market, to understand the consumer, and then to bring out their brand in the right way. So I think it's time well spent instead of making a hasty decision, because it's not about quoting how many stores you will put in India. I think it's about how you will integrate into India, how you will be part of the community here.
That is one of the main reasons that Starbucks decided to source its coffee locally. In fact, India is one of the only markets in which Starbucks is doing this. In partnership with 50/50 JV partner Tata Coffee, Starbucks has even set up a roaster in India to achieve the perfect blend of Starbucks coffee using local beans. Another first for the global coffee chain, and perhaps a sign of how seriously it's taking the Indian market.
Unlike China, where we went to 13 years ago and we pioneered and taught people about the quality of coffee, in this market, it's already a large coffee market that we think we'll be able to come to with Tata's help and significantly distinguish ourselves from everyone else.
The Starbucks team sees India emerging as one of their top 5 largest markets over the long term. Staying the course will mean grit, tolerance, some failures, and the ability to leverage local knowledge, assets and capabilities, and above all the tenacity to deal with corruption and cope with volatility. That's on next week's episode of Conquering the Chaos.